Welcome to another exciting episode of Riding Through the Unknown. I'm your host, Michael, and tonight I am joined with a guest who I actually had the privilege to be meeting face to face, so to speak, for the first time. And what she does is so incredible that I just felt like I can't call my show a disclosure show if I do not have this lady on here. And so I am going to allow her to share her story and what she does. So I am going to introduce you all to the one, the only, the amazing Nancy Thames.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing really good. Trying to stay cool in this really, really hot weather. So thank you for having me. I'm very proud to be here. I pronounce my last name Thames, like the Thames River in England. It's really different. And I forgot to tell you that when we were chit chatting before the show. But anyway, my name is Nancy Thames, and I am a lifelong contactee with interdimensional beings and extraterrestrials. And this has been an ongoing thing for me. I have physical face to face contact with these interdimensionals and extraterrestrials, and my first conscious memories start back as young as 2 or 3 years old. And at that point, it was simply beautiful. It was very pure, and I, you know, I had nothing around me or no reason to not accept it for what it was. The world around me had not influenced me in any way, so it was fun. And I was never afraid or anything like that. And then this has continued on throughout my life. And as I got to be around junior high age, the things kind of changed for me because becoming a teenager and being in school and being impressionable by the world around me, being impressionable by what other people say. I grew up in Tennessee, which is part of the Bible Belt, and these things were considered demonic or a mental health issue. So, not only did my parents always say to me, when I was little, they would say, "You're having a dream, go back to bed," you know, and thought it was just a very playful imagination of a young child. And then as I got older, it was simply not acceptable conversation. Growing up in the South and stuff, my parents did not want me to talk about these kind of things. So I was just point blank told that you cannot talk about these things, Girl Scouts or school, among friends or even among family members or anywhere, especially at family get togethers and things, because this is a topic that the world wasn't ready to hear about or wanted to hear about. It was just a no-no. So I've learned very, very at a young age that simply I had to suppress these things. So that's basically how I spent all of my life. It's just knowing that this was happening, but suppressing it. And it wasn't until I got into, in my 20s and I got married and eventually had children. And at this point, I was like branching out and looking for information myself. And I realized very quickly that the world had a lot of different opinions on these topics. And most people were embarrassed to even, if I would go, when I was older, I would go to a bookstore and start looking for things. And people, if you walk up on them while there's in the, the section, it's like a cult or ascension, whatever the topics are in the bookstore, people would just be embarrassed. Like when you walk up, it was like they were embarrassed that they got caught even being looking at these books, and they would simply say, "Oh, excuse me, I'm in the wrong area." So that was just, I realized this is just not something that the world around us is ready to talk about or hear about, and it just had to be suppressed because, growing up, not having anybody to talk to about these things is very, very hard. It's not an easy thing to do. And a lot of people really don't realize how it affects you when you're having your everyday life, and then you have a different, experience or life separate. And it's very real, but it's very cruel when the world around you is telling you that's insane. There's no way that could be happening, et cetera, et cetera. So, but you do learn to adapt. You have to, because to be able to survive, you've got to change with the changes in the world and make it work. And that's simply what I did. And I think a lot of the reasons why I handled things the best I could, and it hasn't always been easy at different points in my life. I've experienced fear. I've experienced struggles, which, I've had a lot, 2 failed marriages, very ugly divorce situations, difference of opinions on these matters and things. So it's not easy. I think anybody that's truly understands where I'm coming from on this, you realize that, a lot of your friends, a lot of your family that you love and you wish would listen to you, they don't want to hear it. So it's not an easy process, but now I'm older and I have a better understanding, and I understand every single bit of it, the good and the bad, of all the experiences. All of it was leading up to serve a higher purpose. And I think that's the case with all people that have what I consider contacts, or even they consider abductions. I think with our reaching higher consciousness and higher awareness, we'll have a better understanding that really all these things were a preparation to get us to be who we are today, all of us, not just me, but all individuals. We're all waking up and reaching higher levels of consciousness. And, we are branching out and having this evolutionary big event happening now. And this is the biggest thing since our creation. And we are all simply here and we are all a part of it. It's not just about me, and it's not just about our country, the United States. This is a worldwide phenomenon, and it's affecting the whole world. And the whole world is changing rapidly. Our weather is different. People, you see the words consciousness, ascension, frequency, and these things are key things to our evolution, our ascension. And the most beautiful part of it is that they are here and been waiting for us to reach that point. And that is exactly what attracted to them here to our planet. And in particularly now is because of us human beings. We are finally waking up and learning who we are, our true origins, and just how beautiful and significant we are, not only to our planet, but within the cosmic realm. So we're still on the very early stages of this evolutionary phase, but I see it every day. Humanity is just getting closer and closer to just being better human beings, becoming the beings that we were created to be, not the beings that the world around us has programmed us into. In this 3D realm, it's a negative realm. So we're having to pull ourselves out of this program, so to speak, this negative program. And as we do, we realize that we've been manipulated and programmed all our lives. And this has been going on for decades. It's not something new. And we're realizing that we can change. We can change. We can find new ways of thinking, new ways of living. And all of these things are what is going to raise our frequency, make us, help us to get to our ascension, help us to reach our evolutionary stage, and help us to finally be free. We've never been free. And this is something that is so new and people don't even realize it, but we've been so manipulated all of our lives since the minute we're born. We don't even realize that, we are a slave to a program and we work ourselves to death. And we never even get to enjoy the human experience because of being a slave to a materialistic, material world that's how we've been groomed into be. And it's not our fault. That's just what happened to us because of our lower level of consciousness. And they do this continuously and have for decades. There's toxins in our air, toxins in our water. They have us dependent upon pharmaceutical drugs, which are synthetics, which our body is not really, they're not really aren't intended for us. When we were created, everything on this planet that we ever needed to help us in a medicinal way or in any health way was placed here on this planet just as we were, in either plant form or in whatever it is here. So there's tons of technology that these so-called dark forces, elites, etc., cabal, Illuminati, all black hats, all these different names that they go by, that all work to keep us suppressed, to keep us dumbed down. They cannot make money off of intelligent, healthy human beings. So this is a way of population control as well, by keeping us unhealthy and sick, and by the time we go to retire, we don't get to enjoy it because we're either unhealthy or sick. So we have very short lifespans, and that's not, we should be living much longer lifespans. There should be no diseases. We should have no poverty. We should have free technology. We shouldn't be paying, we shouldn't be using fossil fuels. And all these things have been suppressed and kept from us because they wanted to keep us at a level of that was to benefit and line their pockets and really served us no purpose. And as we get higher in our ascension, we can become aware and say, no more, we'll realize, and these things will not happen overnight. It's just like in our creation, it has to be done in a very, very slow, beautiful process, because it has to be done because this is about all of humanity. This is about the whole world. And it has to be done in this slow, beautiful way, because it has to be done to where people's minds can accept all these changes that we're going to be seeing throughout our life and on our planet. Us leaving a 3D realm, moving into a higher dimension. And dimensions are not physical places. They are higher levels of consciousness. And as we do our awareness, we depend upon our five senses. But now with this new evolutionary stage and parts of our DNA starting to activate, we're going to be aware of more things. We're going to understand that there's life all around us. We simply cannot see it. Extraterrestrials and interdimensionals are not hiding from us. They are all in our skies and all in our solar system. We simply cannot see it. So, there's many major changes going to occur, and it will be done in a slow process so that it will be accepted. And so humanity won't flip out. Humanity will not run around with shotguns. It will be so slow and beautiful, done in the proper way, so that everybody realizes we're all involved. We're all a part. It doesn't single anybody out. We're all a part. And some of us may wake up quicker than others, but eventually, as it expands and grows, everybody will be included. So I'm very excited to be alive. I think this is the greatest thing that's ever happened, and we're all a part of it. People don't realize it, but we all made a choice to be here on Earth. And we're going to finally, for the first time, start to have the intelligence and understand and have the awareness of our true origins, our place here on this planet Earth, and how beautiful and wonderful she is. We'll learn to have a better appreciation for our planet and all living creatures on it. And we'll understand our place, not only here on Earth, but in the cosmic realm, and how our connections are with them, because we are all one and we are all connected. And once we come together and become united, we'll be unstoppable. We'll be huge and massive. And there'll be nothing that any dark forces, black cats, any of these things, it's just a matter of time, and they will start to fall off completely. And these organizations and facets that have controlled us will diminish, because we're going to learn they no longer serve humanity, and we're going to start looking at things differently. So I'm sorry, I can go off on this stuff all day long. This is my sole purpose in life, is to help humanity to understand all these changes and why the interdimensionals and extraterrestrials are here, and they are here because humans are waking up. Humans are the disclosure. We are the disclosure. That's my opinion. Human beings figuring out who we are and our place on this planet. We are the disclosure. It's not, extraterrestrials and interdimensionals have been here long before we were. That's nothing new. And I think most people already know this, even if they don't believe it completely, but they know there was things here. There's too much historical evidence. But what's the new factor here is human beings waking up and realizing these things. So I'll shut up for a little while and let you ask me questions or whatever you want to do, because I could go on forever.
Oh no, you're fine. And I agree with a lot of what you were saying. And one thing that you mentioned that I think is something that a lot of people don't think about, and that is when you were saying, there's contactees and abductees. And I think a lot of people view them as the same thing, and they're not. And so, at least in my opinion, they're not. I'm guessing you kind of are on that same page of they're two different things. And so, would you like to share with the audience your view of what makes a contactee, what makes an abductor or abductee? Not an abductor, sorry.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Well, I've been doing this for a very, very long time. I'm 64 years old, and I have, been through different aspects of it. Everybody's story is real. What they felt is very real. For me, my fear is the thing. Okay, the fear. Okay, we all have to work on this fear. And for me, the fear is not what they look like. Okay, it is the vibrational frequency exchange between our frequency is very, very low because we're in the 3D realm. Their frequency is much, much higher than ours. So when we come into face-to-face contact with an interdimensional or extraterrestrial, and most people it is extraterrestrials, and the frequency exchange is overwhelming. It's a feeling in your body is so overwhelming. There's nothing to compare it to on earth. And when you feel this, your brain does not know what to do with this feeling. It doesn't understand it. So automatically it's embedded in our DNA, going from way back to when we were like primitive human beings, and everything in the world around us was a predator. So automatically our brain, when it feels this, and it's so different, they look so different, a lot of things are different. We don't understand. We feel like we don't have control perhaps. And this overwhelming fear takes over, and we consider it a predator. So when that happens, extraterrestrials and interdimensionals are telepathic, as everyone knows. So, and they do not have the same emotions that we have. So whatever we feel, they feel it. This fear, all these negative feelings, all these things are not emotions and feelings that they have in their reality. So when they sense this on us, this is not something that they're used to, and they don't like it because they don't understand it and they don't like it. So they will automatically tap us and put us in a kind of a sedated without the sedation state, because they're not here to do experiments. They're not here to do fun and games. They're here for a purpose. And at the times when all this was happening, a lot of times we, of course, when we come to Earth, all of our memories are wiped out. We don't remember any soul contracts. We don't remember any prior agreements or anything. So when this happens to us, it's all new and scary. And it is. It's real. It's very real. But there's a lot of things that is serving a higher purpose. It was them looking at our evolutionary stage, them looking at, our spiritual growth, them looking at, you know, also, you know, our physical health. There's certain things that they wanted to know because they've been watching us since the very beginning of our creation, watching us throughout this time, watching us evolve and waiting for us to become who we are today. And so I'm not saying that people that call themselves abductees, I'm not saying that their experiences were not real. They're very real to them. But a lot of times they're blacked out and they don't even remember really, other than the fear, they really don't remember a lot of anything else. And when you get back, your mind realizes that there's like missing bits, like missing time or fragmented memories. Your brain, and I've had this experience myself, will try to fit in these missing pieces. And because of what the world has programmed us to think, that these things were either demonic or these things were horrible, et cetera, et cetera. All these things are embedded deep in our mind. So our interpretation sometimes comes out in that form, and it's not really what the whole experience was even like. And we'll try to humanize it in a lot of ways. And they are a billion years ahead of us in evolution. There is no way to humanize any of this because when you and I are sitting here talking, I'm looking at you through technology. You're talking to me through technology. So for us, technology is a separate entity. In their reality, their consciousness is their technology. And that is always with them. It's not a separate entity like it is for us. So these things are very, very hard for us to understand because it is all new to us. And they are billions of years ahead of us in our thinking, in our understanding, in our awareness. And they do things and sense things that we'll never understand at this point. But they are very, very patient and they understand all this. So that's why actually when they're blacking you out or whatever, it rather than letting you sit there scream and squirt around or whatever, which could, you know, you could physically harm them because a lot of them are a lot not as strong as some of us human beings. So automatically they're going to do things like that to protect themselves. And because they're only here to do their mission, their task. So a lot of times we really don't know until later on in our life, we have a better understanding and we could understand and piece more together, maybe remember more as well, because we automatically ourselves, due to the amount of fear that's involved, will block out certain things because it's your brain's way of protecting you. So it's true. What people feel is true, and what their experiences, it's real. It's real to them. And until they have some understanding, it will stay that way. And that's fine. It should stay that way because whatever they need at that time to find whatever way of reasoning or comforting, that's just the way it is. And nobody can explain anybody else's experience. Only the experiencer themselves truly can work these things out and figure it out. And I know ways that can help people to do that because I've had to do the same thing. There's been times, and still to this day, there's times that I have to fight my fear. I feel them coming. My body, I get a overwhelming feeling, and I know that they're coming. And when I start to feel it, I have to remind myself I can do this, and I push through that fear and make myself get through it so that I can have the full conscious contact with them. Is where this is where when you get to this point, this is where you really find out who they truly are, and you truly understand the purpose of all these things and what everything in your life that has occurred when it involves them, what it all means. But everybody here is on their own spiritual path, and we all wake up or understand things at different times. So there's no wrong or right answer when it comes to these things. But I'm asking people to, if you have had what you consider horrible it's real. You have a right to feel that way. Everybody would feel that way. It's very scary. But start looking within. Ask your subconscious to open up into your human consciousness and to help you fill in the bits and pieces or help you to understand the true nature of what that experience was like. And give your subconscious permission to allow you to know these things, because our brain protects us. So I find that meditation is a good way to help you to understand and to help you reach that level of faith in yourself and believing in yourself and understanding what fear truly is. And it's something that we all have to get over.
Right. And I feel like the beings that are here to help have studied us enough and they're aware. They have a fear themselves, in my opinion, of they know if they were to make themselves visible in our atmosphere, it used to be two streams of thought would occur. I think there's a third now, and that would be the first one would be is the people would be screaming and going, "Get your guns, we're being invaded." The second one was, "Oh, our gods have arrived and we deify them," which is not what they want.
No.
And now there's the third, which I think is what they were waiting for, is the ones that'll say, "Thank you for waiting for us to come on our own to join you where you are."
Exactly. And that's what's happening. They're waiting on us. They're not going to push us any further. But there's enough evidence out there that everybody in the world should know we're not alone in this universe, and we've never been alone. And a lot of people don't understand that, but I want people to know they believe in a creator source, and they all have souls, and they're all biological. None of them are AI. Now, I don't know if the government has done things. I've done, I did work as a civilian for the Department of Defense, but I worked in dentistry, had nothing to do with any of this extraterrestrial interdimensional world. That is all between me and the interdimensionals and the creator source and extraterrestrial, all that's separate. And I never divulged any information to them. And as far as I know, whether they knew about me, I don't know. I have no clue. But that's not why I was working for as a civilian for the Army. I was strictly in the dental field, and that was it. And I worked on soldiers, getting them ready to deploy overseas, getting them like their dental health ready and getting them ready. So, but they had to wait and do these things in the way that they're doing it, because these things have to kind of happen organically, and it has to be when we're ready. And we have to know that we're a participant. Our participation and our desire for these things to occur has a lot to do with how soon and how it all happens and stuff. So, and it's just like anything else. Everything is done with the intention of making it the easiest way possible. So, yeah, it's a beautiful process, and they've showed me lots of visions about how it all plays out and how it's all done. But one of the things they don't tell me is like time frames, because in their reality there is no such thing as time. So what seems like I'm 64 seems like a lot of years for me, but in their reality, it's just a snap of a finger. It's nothing, So
Right.
there's a lot of things that we're going to have to realize. We cannot humanize beings or races of beings, many races of beings that are a billion years ahead of us in evolution, So it's a lot of new things that are going to come, but it's nothing that's going to be detrimental or harmful. It's all going to be more like they will be here to assist. They're not here to change or whatever. They are not gods. They are not angels. They don't want us to ever think those kind of things. They're just here, and they're not here to fix everything. We're human. We're here on free will. We make mistakes. We have to learn from them, and we have to fix our own problems. But they can assist, and especially as we ascend to higher levels, they can assist more and advise us on all our new technologies that are happening every day. And these are technologies, we do need some advice from these race of beings that are billion years ahead of us, because they've seen many other races throughout different galaxies and universes go through this evolutionary stage. So this is not the first time that they've seen a race of beings do this. It just happens to be our first time. So this is all new to us, and it's very scary, but we're going to have to lose the fear and understand our world is changing. Even our planet Earth is going through her own ascension, and she is changing and evolving. And now it's our turn. We are changing and evolving. We're taking a big leap, not only in our technology, but in our consciousness, in our awareness and understanding of things. So it's, to me, it's a beautiful thing. But I understand it's a lot easier for me because I've been doing this for a long, long time. It's nothing new to me. So, but I do understand, and I want to help people to understand the real reasons why they're here and the truths about them, because there's so much misinformation that has been put out there, and it has been suppressed by our governments and by different fractions of organizations that never wanted this to happen, or that never wanted humanity to wake up and become more enlightened, intelligent human beings. So there's a lot going on, and it's going to, it's a whole lot of things that's going to surface throughout this stuff. And, we're going to learn a lot of things, and we're not going to be happy with a lot of it, but we're also going to learn. We're going to be a generation of forgiveness. We're going to learn. We will not forget the things that have been done, mistakes that have been done in our past, but we are going to have to realize it doesn't matter what has happened in our past. We cannot change what has happened in our past, but it's what we do from this point on with this new intelligence. And the decisions we make from here on out is the most important. So we won't forget any of the bad things, but we're going to have to learn to not dwell on these negative aspects, because that's part of the 3D realm. That's part of what kept us chained down and kept us overpowered by negative forces. So we're going to have to be strong and play the role and in the game that they've been manipulating. And we were like little game pieces to them. We're going to have to quit playing the game with them and take the high road and say it stops. And we're going to be in charge of all of the decisions, and we're going to actually experience freedom for the first time on this planet and not be censored or judged or manipulated or controlled, including all of the things that we consume and put in our bodies. There's just so many things that need to change. And we're just like on the very beginning of all this, and it's not going to happen overnight, just like the difference between night and day. This is going to be a slow thing, because the whole world has to be ready for this. It's going to run its course. We have to just be patient and let evolution do its job, and it knows what it's doing.
Right. And I find it kind of interesting is, as you were talking, I started thinking about something, and my mind started mapping something and being like, whoa, look at this. And what it was is, yes, tomorrow is our Independence Day for the U.S., which the few overthrew an empire. But on a bigger scale is we're, waking up and realizing we have the authority and self-awareness to align ourselves with who we want to be allies with, form treaties with, explore with. And the treaties that were made without our awareness, I don't know what those, what's going to happen with those. I don't know if they're going to be nullified or forced to adapt, or you know what, I mean, that, is nothing to do with me in a way, because I have the rights to my own treaties and awarenesses. And what I was noticing and thinking about was the people who want to suppress us were, for a time, wanting to destroy all the statues that were up, that were memories of us saying, these are people who stood up and defied an empire and formed a new one. Granted, some argue we may not really be free from who we think we're free from, but the optics of it is what I'm looking at. And so it's interesting to me that it's like, yeah, what is the world going to be like when we get to say, I want to align with that side, or I want to align with that side? And and will we just go our separate ways if, we're different allies, or, what's the world going to look like?
The way it was explained to me by the interdimensionals and extraterrestrial, from their perspective, they've gone through these aspects, long time ago, and they've watched other beings and stuff. But it's like, as we leave this 3D negative realm, this is the place, the realm of all, where wars can occur, all negative things can occur. As we evolve further up the ladder, it's like we're climbing up a ladder, okay? And as we go up the ladder, I don't know what's wrong with me. But anyway, as we continue up this ladder of evolution, all negativity, all warlike ways, all these things start to fall off. They no longer serve us. We realize it's kind of like we outgrow those pair of shoes and we kick them aside. So we kind of like we shed all these negative aspects. So, and as we continue on, because once we start getting up into this new realms of thinking, new realms and higher frequencies, we won't ever go backwards. We won't go backwards. We'll continue up, continuing, because once you get at a certain higher level or frequency, you'll notice within your body, it feels really good. And you will be you will be a different person. Your whole way of thinking will be different, because you will start to see the beautiful things in the world, not the negative things. And you will find yourself, other people that are people you love, even family or friends, if they're like slower to get on the positive bandwagon or to start waking up, you'll find you'll still love them, but you'll find that you really won't want to be around that negative type people anymore. And you'll start being around people that are more on your frequency, more like you. And as it keeps going, it expands, and it's more people like you, more people like you, more people like you. And it has to work its way through all of humanity. So, like I said, it won't happen overnight, but it will happen. And it feels really good. I know when I raise my frequency, or even when I start talking about these things, I start feeling it. And it's something, the closest thing I can compare it to is, how you hear about runners, they'll run these long distances and they get this adrenaline rush and they say it feels really, really good. That's what raising your frequency feels really, really good. And it's also getting us closer. You know how I told you that part of the fear thing is that the frequency difference between a higher frequency extraterrestrial or interdimensional, they're a much higher frequency. So as we gradually creep up, we're getting closer to being on the same frequency with them. That again will not happen overnight, but that gets us more in tune with all the cosmic realm. And we're just gradually getting ourselves up there, up the ladder. I hope that makes sense to you.
It
But,
does.
and and as you do that, part of evolution is we had to we had to go through all these negative, bad, horrible things to make us the human beings that we are today. And it's unfortunate, and it's not something that everybody wants to hear, but the past is in the past. But it did help us and make us who we are, the strong, intelligent beings that we are. And we have seen a lot of bad things in our past. And these are things that we can finally, we won't forget, but we will always remember, and we will make sure that we make better decisions. And it will be more of a collective consciousness frequency. It will expand to where everybody will be kind of united in one, will eventually be all in one frequency and one, united all together as one, which is what we're supposed to be. Because that's the thing, humanity was intended to be one, and everything on this planet was intended to be one with us. We are all connected, we are all one. And there's also the saying, as above, so below. These things are true. Whatever we do here on this planet will ripple out into the universe, and it affects them. It is at their best interest that we become the human beings that we were intended to be, and we reach these higher frequencies. And because if we stay in this warlike 3D realm, most likely we're going to destroy ourselves or our planet. And they cannot let that happen because they love everything about our planet Earth. Our planet Earth is a living conscious being. All creatures on it are living conscious beings. So we're not the only conscious beings on this planet. Our trees, our water, our air, all these things are living conscious beings. They don't have the same consciousness that we have, but they all communicate. And our science is putting out information every time you look about insects have a consciousness, trees, water, all these things have a consciousness. And you can also, you can actually put frequencies in like different levels of water and see the beautiful chemical molecular changes. And there's just so many things that we are just now learning. And our mind is another thing that we just truly have not understood yet, but we are so much about us that we are just now starting to understand, and there's so much in our world that we just can't see, but there's life all around us. But our lives are changing very fast. It's speeding up. We are changing. Our earth is changing. And that's why I'm trying to get enough information to help people to understand these changes and to help them to understand there's no reason to fear. We have everything in the world to look forward to. We just have to start thinking in a more positive and living more positive. And what I do is, when being human beings and programmed in this 3D realm, automatically we're all going to have negative thoughts. Well, what I do is if I have a negative thought, I replace it by 2 positive thoughts, and I work on myself. So you work on yourself, get yourself aligned and your frequency changing. Then you'll notice that your family will start to notice, and they'll want to pick up and learn and be on that frequency, because they see what the difference it's made in you and how good you feel. And, part of being a healthy human being is being a positive human being. A lot of people hear other people saying that we can create our own reality, and that is true. If all we see is negative things, everything in our world around us will be negative. But when we start to see positive, beautiful things, we open up these beautiful, positive opportunities all around us. And it's like everything is attracted to you like a magnet. All the things within that same range, those frequencies attract each other like magnets, and it just expands. And I know it sounds like a lot of information. It's a whole lot. And for me, I totally understand it. But, they've been working on me for a long time to get me to this point, to make me who I am today, to be able to try to explain this stuff to people. And I try my best to make it as relatable and understandable and not seem so far fetched. But I do know that we're all here on a different spiritual path, and we all have to do this on our own. And nobody should believe anything or everything I say or anyone says. We should all do our own research and look within, because I truly think this is about human beings figuring out who we are individually, working on ourselves to become better human beings. And then it will branch out and stem within our families, and then within friends, and then among our peers, and it will start to expand. And we just have to let the evolutionary process, but we do have to do our part. We have to work on being better human beings.
Right, and it's kind of interesting because I was having a conversation with a gentleman who works at Lowe's, asking him questions about something, and we started talking about paranormal because he was like, "Wow, you have a podcast showing the paranormal," and I was like, "Yeah, I do," and he goes, "So how do you handle, all the information that comes through?" And I basically ended up saying to him, "So what you have to do is, the verbiage I use is what resonates with you. Explore it, research it, follow it. And if something doesn't resonate with you, don't attack it. Just skip it, move on."
Yeah.
And he was like, "That's a great way to look at it."
Yeah. Yeah. Because we're all here, our brain can only absorb so much new information. We're human, and that's just the way it works. I mean, that's just the way it works in our world. So we have to be a little patient and understand that our world is changing, and if we want to change with it, we're going to have to work on it, but at our own pace, not what anybody else says you should do. And we have to want these things. It needs to be done organically. Yeah.
And talking about making it relatable, one of the things I'm famous for on this show is relating things to movies or TV shows, because to me, it's how my mind makes it to where I can look at it, see it, and be like, "Oh, that's me," integrate it and make it part of me. And as you were talking about, as you become more positive and can't go back, I started looking and thinking, there are movies, there are shows out there that are part of the disclosure. And if you know how to look at it and know what you're looking at. And the one that popped in my head that I felt like really resonated with what you were sharing was the Matrix movies, where Neo gave up the fear, owned his power. What happens? He stopped the bullets and was no longer afraid of the agents, and the agents became afraid of him. And of course, I'm not going to go over all the movies, but that was the first movie. Go to the fourth movie. What did he do? He tried to go back, and he couldn't go back. The medicine wouldn't work. The pill wouldn't work. And Trinity couldn't go back and couldn't let go. She knew him and still had. And the thing that I didn't realize until you were sharing that was, that neither one of them could go back. But the other thing was, the whole point of the movies was Neo was the one. And so everybody again will say, "Oh, we need the savior, the chosen one." But the fourth movie, there's two. And three, if you start to look at it and going, everybody who remembers, plays their part, is awakened, can't go back. Morpheus didn't go back. And so it really does start to, when you really look at it, go, once you awakened and start this path, there is no going back for anyone. We're all becoming the Neo or the Morpheus or Trinity or whoever, you want to look at. And the one thing that was key to every one of those awakenings was they let go of the fear of who they were and just accepted it.
Yep, that's a big thing. And, that's something that I really had to work on. And, we're human beings. We have to work on these things, so we just have to be patient and work towards it, and it will happen. It really will. Another thing, if you want to relate to movies, I think Avatar, is it Avatar? Yeah,
Yeah.
about they understood their connections with their planet, and they understood their connections with all creatures on it. And that's one of the things that I've been taught. And they sent my son and I to Mexico to meet an indigenous tribe. And it was simply because they wanted us to understand that we're connected to everything on this planet, the trees, the air, the water, and all animals. We're all connected and we're all one. And that all of us were put here to support each other in whatever fashion or form, but we should be thankful and respectful of all the creatures. And we should also be thankful for the trees, the air, and the water, because they all provide things that we need to sustain our life. So that's another, sometimes I think these movies were done intentionally to
Right.
put these thoughts in our head to make us try to help us to be better human beings. So, yeah, that's a good analogy. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and another one that just popped in my head, ironically, with, like we said, tomorrow being Independence Day,
Yeah.
was Independence Day when the president said, his famous speech, I get chills when I think about it, is, Independence Day was the US's,
Yeah.
Declaration of Freedom. And today it is no longer just a US holiday. Today's the day the world gets together and says in one voice, we will not go quiet into the night. We will fight. We will be free.
Yep. And soon enough, we'll be doing that.
Yeah. And so when you were commented earlier in the show about how the disclosure movement's not a US
That's
deal
exactly.
or a Russia deal or, an individual country, it's global. It's
It
like my
is.
mind was like, yeah, Independence Day movie was
Mm-hmm.
about
It's
us.
about humanity. It's about humanity, and that's my whole focus is humanity, and reaching out. For my goals are to reach out anywhere in the world that speaks English, and that will have me, and I'm doing next week. I'm doing a podcast in Ireland. I do them in Portugal. I do them in Germany, anywhere, and sometimes I'll do them just like I'm doing them, but then they'll have a translator to translate it. So yeah, for me, this is a worldwide phenomenon. This is not just about, it's not about me. It's not about the United States. This is worldwide. This is all of humanity. This is all about us. And this is about us. And that's why I think humanity, we are the disclosure. Human beings are the disclosure. So it's amazing to me.
It
But
is. And on my paranormal show, I have audience in Japan that I know about, the UK. I've had guests, Australia,
mhm,
so it's global in its own right. But so when I was looking at the show and deciding, what path am I really feeling drawn to, because I felt like I just wasn't living up to its potential, I ended up doing an article saying, what is paranormal? And the basic definition, bottom line, like core definition that I discovered was anything that's unexplained. And it's like my mind went boom, and I was like, now I have guests talking about UFOs and other experiences in the realm of paranormal. And so it's like, I feel like this show and that show could potentially merge back into one, but it's like, yeah, I feel like it's such a gift to when we, and I say we, like, I'm meaning podcast hosts, can give audience the free space to share their ideas, share their experiences, and not feel judged about them. And I also, for those that do put people on their show to kind of mock and tease them, know that, unfortunately, in the realm of, and I'm not a total believer of this, but I've seen it, of karma, that, your day is coming too. And so, you might want to keep that in mind if that's what you're wanting to do, knowing you're going to be on a show one day and that's going to be you in that seat. So you might want to think about that.
Yeah, that is true. I think, in the world that we're walking into, the reality that we're changing into, all truths will be known. And, in talking about your paranormal, just as our awareness about extraterrestrials and being able to see them, the paranormal world, people are going to see more and more, sightings of cryptids, Bigfoot, and ghosts, and because our awareness is opening up, we're going to be experiencing all kinds of new things. So, not just the extraterrestrial interdimensional world is going to open up and have its disclosure. All of this is going to have its disclosure. All human beings that have been ridiculed and suppressed and told that they were mentally ill, or told that they were insane, or told that they were demonic, they're finally going to actually not be able to hold their heads up and say, I told you. It kind of reminds me of Independence Day, the airplane pilot. I've been telling y'all all this time. You know who I'm talking about? The guy that was
Randy Quaid.
Yes.
Yes.
That's hysterical. But yeah, it's kind of like that. But we can do this, but in a good way, not in a like slam you way, but it's like, but yes, but imagine how good that feels to people to even to be where we are today, to have these discussions and stuff. And it's amazing that we can sit here and have this conversation. 20 years ago, no, we could have, but we wouldn't have had the amount of people that are paying attention, and we wouldn't have had the government doing disclosures and things of this nature. So these are amazing times, and that's your indication right there that our worlds are changing, and we need to be aware and get on the bandwagon and do our part. Everybody's a part of this, whether they know it or not. We're all a part of this. Yeah.
And another aspect of that too is I've had quite a few guests when we're talking about, like you brought up, cryptids, and I was like, yeah, everybody talks about Bigfoot, and I always now start to pose, is Bigfoot from another dimension? And everyone's like, ooh, that's a good point. Mm-hmm. Is he only here coming through portal to portal? And that's why nobody gets good, clear images, because the portal energy is distorting the image. And a lot of people are now starting to like redefine spirits of, are they a parallel timeline?
Yeah.
That we're seeing. So it's like, yeah, even the paranormal world is really starting to unravel itself and go, everything is now on the table. It's a no holds bar. We are free to investigate everything.
Yes, our world is changing. So many things, but the beautiful part is that it will not be scary or the shell shock like it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago, we are going to have a better understanding of these things, and it will not be so abnormal anymore. It'll just be the paranormal. You know.
And I have a question for you that's a personal experience of mine.
Sure.
And it's kind of come because I've had guests who talk about light ships and they show them in the clouds, and or UFOs as you may call them. And every once in a while I look up when I'm in the pool and there'll be like one cloud that just seems larger or fluffier than the rest. And it feels like it's coming towards me. It's like I look at it and it's like the only cloud coming towards me. The other clouds, they're just hanging out. And so I've often wondered, is that a ship? And that's why the cloud is moving differently to say, hey, we're here, just letting you know.
Yeah. As we reach higher frequencies, our awareness increases. So, really and truly, that ship is not hiding from you, but you're getting glimpses of it because your frequency is changing and you're getting closer to their frequency. And that's why you're seeing it, and other people might not, you know. So, yeah, it's real. And yeah, they are very aware when people are picking up on it, because if you're picking up on it, you can imagine they are, because they're billions of years ahead of us, and they can read our frequencies, big time. And that's what they really watch, is to see the frequency, how we're, how close we are getting to reaching our ascension, how close we are getting to our evolutionary steps. So they see that and they love that. That's progress for humanity is really what it is. So yeah, that's real.
And it's interesting how you mentioned ascension and how we're progressing on it. Is I have thoughts in my head of we're in third density and fifth density is next. 5D is our next evolutionary. And someone said to me recently, goes, well, what are you doing about the fourth? And I was like, we're skipping the fourth. Well, why are we skipping the fourth? Well, I've heard a lot of people say we're skipping the fourth. Who said that? And I'll mention names. They're like, they never said that. And so it's like, it makes me wonder, like, why am I like all of a sudden starting to think of circumventing one to go to another level versus going step by step? And are we going to go into 4D to 5D?
We're already in fourth, but these things are so gradual, and it has to be done this way for our minds to be able to understand it. And like I told you, dimensions are not physical places; it's higher levels of consciousness. So, right. and it happens so uniquely, purposely done, so that it is not a shell shock and people don't freak out. And it has to give the mind the amount of time it needs to adapt. So we're already in the fourth dimension, and we are going up to the fifth. And how you will know is the fact that your awareness, and you'll find that you are becoming a more positive human being. You'll see the difference in the people around you, their decisions, their actions, their perspective on things will change, and they'll be a happier human being, for one. I mean, even the most negative person will all of a sudden will shock you and become a more positive human being, because as you increase your frequency, it feels really good. And it's like your body, your soul is rewarding yourself for reaching these levels, because your soul has been sitting in this vessel we are in, just waiting for this human consciousness to finally catch up. Because that's why your soul self, your inner self, chose to come here and be here for this experience, because this is big. And this is, even though for us here in our human form, this is all new and everything, But before we ever got here, we already knew what we were coming here for. And this is part of our main purpose of being here. This is a big step. And once you get in and start understanding the spiritual realms and the cosmic realms, you'll understand how significant this is. Think about all of the humanity in the past that didn't hit this final level. For example, I'll give you an example they gave me. You know how in the Bible it talks about the shiny ones,
Right.
and it mentions like the shiny ones. So the way that they explained it to me, because interdimensionals compared to the extraterrestrials, they appear, when I see them in face-to-face contact, they appear to me as a shiny one. They're almost luminescent. They're real opalescent looking, beautiful, and they're 8 to 7 foot tall. They're opalescent and they're real shiny, kind of opalescent. So the way they explained to me, and because I wanted to know, why do y'all look so different from Greys or reptilians or Nordics or Turians, et cetera, et cetera. And so if they took me and you, teleported us back to biblical times in that time period when those people were looking, would look at us, they would see you and I as the shiny ones because we are of a higher frequency and we are above them now, in what their consciousness level and at their period of time and their awareness and understanding was way below us. So we would actually be the shiny ones to them. So that kind of gives you some clarity on how back in the old days, a lot of these things were kind of misunderstood because they didn't know any different. They didn't have anything to compare it to. Their understandings weren't at the level that ours are today, so that's how they kind of explained it to me. It's just, it's a matter of evolution and it's a matter of higher frequencies, vibrational frequencies, and it's like higher consciousness makes all the difference in these stepping up to these realms. And they're not physical places. It's more like just kind of like, like little stacks on each other. And they're right there on each other, but this one can't see that one because he's not to that level yet. But as you get closer to it, your awareness and you open up and you're more aware to see more things and understand more things. That's how they explained it to me. I hope that makes any sense. Makes sense.
It does, and it actually triggered my mind to thinking something along the lines of that. Was a friend of mine, William Henry, was starting to teach, we're all looking for this box, the Ark of the Covenant. Well, what we don't realize is we're supposed to look within. It's within us. We are the Ark. It's not a box that's sitting in a cave somewhere waiting for everyone to go, okay, it's time now. Here I am. And I actually started thinking about it a step further because you pointed out going back to the Garden of Eden and being the shiny one there. And I was like, well, what if the Garden of Eden with the tree of knowledge is not a place, but again, is us?
Exactly. That's why I keep telling you, we are the disclosure.
Yeah.
I mean, it just makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, we are what this generation, we are the generation of human beings that the world and the universe and every living creature on our planet has been waiting on for us to finally wake up and understand who we are and understand all these, there's things in our DNA that's never even been used, and these things are going to start to wake up and we are going to learn things about ourselves and have more abilities and things. It's going to be amazing because we are the disclosure. We are going to understand things about ourselves and our mind and all, we have the potential to even heal ourselves. We have the potential to do so many things, and it all stems on our waking up and coming together as one and understanding that by being united, we are unstoppable and no dark forces or evil forces can ever control us again. Because once you go forward into next levels of evolution, it's all the way, it's all the way up the ladder. It's all the way up. There is no going backwards. There's no going backwards. We
Right.
just got to get past this 3D realm where all this negativity and stuff is. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny because everybody was taught growing up, if you want to hide something, put it in plain sight because nobody ever looks there.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here now thinking, like,
Yeah.
all these ancient stories that have been used, I forget what the term they use them for, but as stories for us to grow on and learn from. But like the Tower of Babel, again, could be us communicating with the divine ones and ourselves, being on that level, talking with them, and they dispersed us. And so, how do you keep us from remembering that? Tell us it's a location somewhere that's hidden, and we, being the seekers that we are, will spend a lot of time looking for it instead of looking within to go, oh, wait a
Exactly.
minute, it's right here under my nose, literally.
Yeah. A lot of things that they've taught me are things are, and what they say is, we already know. And they've always told me throughout my life, you already know. And I'm like, what? But I see it. There's so much up within us. And once we get those things figured out and understand who for me, see, I wanted to know, and I still work on it. Well, every day is a new experience. We're always going to be learning new things. Nobody knows everything.
Right.
That's just a simple fact. The more you know, the more you realize the more there is to learn and know. But like, I wanted to know the Nancy within, not the Nancy that the world around me has created me and led me around like a horse or whatever, pull me around and doing this 9 to 5, doing this, that, and the other, the material world, all this. I had to go within, find my soul self, my inner self, the one that chose to come to earth, the one that has a mission and is here for a reason. And the way that I did that was through their help, which they gifted me a Kundalini awakening, which opened my subconscious up into my human consciousness, but also me working on myself, asking my subconscious to open up to my human consciousness and meditating and asking to, please allow me, share with me what you know to my inner self and bring it forward, because our world is changing and we all need a little assistance. And there's nothing wrong with asking your inner self to come forward and help you. And I think that's part of it, is us figuring out who we are. And when we figure out who we are, then everything else is going to fall into place. Yeah.
Right. And one of the things, too, I find that's kind of, I was just thinking in my head would be a funny moment, and realizing why everything isn't just laid out for us is those of us who astral travel.
Mm-hmm.
And, you travel basically almost by speed of thought. And if we started doing that here, how we would be taking advantage of it and being like, ooh, look at what I can do, and start showing off and start doing, and it's like we would forget why we had that gift. And so I feel like, yeah, they slow that process down too, to where when we're ready and willing to accept it as the gift it is and use it, so I'll suddenly be able to travel by speed of thought somewhere and be like, hey, here I am, let me help. Let's do this. and then go to the next spot, and not just be like jumping over to go, ha ha, I made it
Yeah,
across the sea with 2 seconds.
yeah, yeah. We're like little children to them. We're one of the youngest beings. We are, I guess, the youngest. Well, we are the youngest beings within the universe, in our universe, in other universes. And we are like right now, we are like top priority because we're just so close. We're so close to our ascension, so close to our big evolutionary jump, and they are here in huge numbers and in motherships watching. And I'm not talking about just one race or two races. All of them are here waiting and watching on us because this is something that they've been waiting on for a very, very long time. And, it's a beautiful thing. And they're very thrilled, very thrilled. And these people that think, oh, they want to take over, blah, blah, blah. If they wanted to do things like that, it would have already happened.
Right.
Yeah,
And one of the things too that I think is kind of important to note is not only are we becoming aware of who we are, but we're also becoming aware of where we come from.
exactly.
And I don't mean, the stork or, through a moment of, you know, intimacy, is what created us. No, we stem from further out, and we're not, I have the feeling a pure earthling would be rare on Earth.
Yeah,
That we all are mixed, and they're coming because we're now becoming aware of we're hybrids. We're not
yes.
just this, and that part is waking up. So I feel like they're here
Well, they're
to kind of
family.
be like, hey, now that you're aware that you're one of us, let us help you understand what that means and what
Exactly. Hmm.
that'll bring forth for you.
Yeah, they call it junk DNA. It's not junk DNA. We're all, they played a part in our creation, and they do not claim to have done it all. From what I understand, we are many different races. We were designed from many different races. We have a little each of all. I don't know the exact number, but we are a combination of many races. So we have lots of family in the cosmic realm, and they're all just excited and happy and been waiting for us to get to this level of consciousness and understanding and awareness. And this will get us closer to having direct earthbound contact. But we have to get rid of our fear, and we have to work on, just becoming better human beings and raising our frequencies. Because if you think about it, if we raise our frequencies, that gets us closer to their frequency, and that makes it easier for us. It won't be as overwhelming as it is right now, you know?
I
And
agree. And
yeah,
I had
that'll
a,
help us with our fear. It will help us. Yeah.
right. And it's interesting, like you pointed out earlier, this is the only place where there's war and everything. And I was taught, because I grew up through metaphysics, not dogma. And one of my metaphysics teachers pointed out and said, you have to look at Earth not as a planet of we're just people here going through the human experience. This is like school. This is a proving ground, or this is where you're going to learn your lessons so that you could take it back to your people and share your experience here with them there that
Mm-hmm.
they can experience. And that was the gift that you chose when you decided to come here. And it's like when you think about that and look at that, you're like, whoa, wait a
Yeah.
minute.
This
Life
is
just got a whole new meaning.
It really does. And, it's been a very eye opening experience for me because what I was taught growing up a lot of that just is not the reality of what it's really like. And for me, I'm a happier human being than I've ever been because I know who I am. I know where I came from. I know when I leave this vessel exactly where my consciousness and my soul are going. And my life does not, my the body, I won't be in this body, but my soul and my consciousness are immortal, and they're can multidimensional. It can go anywhere, be anything. You know, if I do believe that we do make soul contracts and stuff, and if we've met all of these agreements, we have so many choices. You know, this is just a mere small experience compared to the infinite amount of experiences that we are yet to have, because it's infinite, and the universe and galaxies are infinite. It's just so much out there, and this is just a little small tidbit of what it is in that cosmic realm, and this is just a human experience. And you know, why our soul and consciousness does not, it moves on. It moves on, most definitely. Yeah.
Right. And another thing I think that will amaze people when they think about it is we kind of hinted at it was time is not a natural construct.
No.
And what brought my true awareness to that was so like daylight savings. There are places in America where daylight savings doesn't go in effect. So if it doesn't go in effect and there's no time change, how is there time to start with? Because how do we determine when it changes, doesn't change? And the fact that the UK changes, before we do to start daylight savings, but is weeks after us to end daylight savings. And I'm like, wait a minute. If time was natural, we would all do it at the same time.
Yeah.
And the one that cracked me up the most is I did an interview with a lady, JV, in Canada on the East Coast. And she goes, yes, we're going to start at 6 o'clock your time, and it'll be 7:30 my time. And I was like, wait, how is it 7:30? Because Eastern is 1 hour.
Yeah.
And it's done by hours. And she goes, no, we do it by, we have that extra half hour that we take into account. I'm like, what? I'm like, yeah, time really does not exist here.
Yeah, I know.
So
It's crazy, and that we really don't even realize how much our lives are manipulated by these things, and we made them. You know, humanity. Somebody, I don't know who, made all these things up to serve their narratives, to serve their agenda. Nothing was ever, I don't think, was really done with the intention of benefiting us. It was to line pocketbooks. You know, it was like about keeping us working at certain times a day to generate more money, so it's bizarre. It's really bizarre, because as much beautiful things that we see and want to see, there's a lot of negative things that we were taken advantage of because of our lower consciousness. We were told that this is the way things have been, and we just say, okay, yeah, and we just do it.
It's like they tell us the light, bright part, and behind that is like maybe 5 or 6 bad things. But we're like, oh, but this is such a great thing, so yes, we'll do it. And it's like, wait a minute. We don't pay attention to what they're attaching to that, and that's where we get into a lot of trouble. Is they're like, you agreed to it, and we're like, you didn't tell us about that, and it's like, you didn't ask either.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
Well, we're actually approaching an hour and a half. Wow.
I'm a talker.
No, I appreciate it, and I enjoyed the information, and it's given me a lot to think about, and I enjoyed the conversation. And where can people find you if they have questions for you about disclosure, or if they where they are in disclosure?
My website is timefordisclosure.com, and my Facebook group is Time for Disclosure / We Have Never Been Alone / We Are the Disclosure, because I truly believe human beings are the disclosure. Um, then I belong to so many groups on Facebook. I love them all, and I think they're all working towards the same thing. We all want to see humanity benefit, and we want to know truths and answers. We want to know our true origins. We want to know so many things, and we're tired of being lied to. So I think there's a lot of beautiful places. So I can be found anywhere on that. And so thank you for having me. I appreciate it, because I couldn't do what I'm doing. And it's very important to me without people like you that allow me to come on their show. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. And I always like to say, especially with first time guests and everything, is thank you for trusting me enough to come on, because I know there are different type of shows, and you can only hope what you're hoping
True.
will happen is what's coming. And so thank you for trusting in me to come on. And so, wrapping up, one thing I like to do is, because we all have these great experiences and such a wealth of knowledge, for those that are watching this show, what is one golden nugget from your life experiences, Nancy, you would want someone to really hear and plant that seed of for them?
One thing that has always stood out with me is what the interdimensionals said to me when I was in Mexico with my oldest son. And they took their hands out like this and they said, "Everything is alive. Everything is alive." And when they did their hands like this, all of a sudden I could see trees talking to each other, plants talking to each other. All these things were communicating. And a tree was laughing at me. And I asked the interdimensional, "Why is that tree laughing at me?" He goes, "He's not laughing at you. He's laughing at humanity." And I'm like, "Why?" He said, "Because humans run around chopping them down, trees, chopping them down. And we never stop and appreciate the fact they provide the air that we breathe. They provide all the wood that you use to build your homes or to comfort yourself when you're cold. They provide nuts, they provide fruit, they provide all these things. And we have no appreciation for them at all, and no understanding that they are a living conscious being. And they do not mind sharing their things with us, but they would like for us to appreciate their gifts to us." So for me, that was a major thing, because just like any other human being, a tree was something that I climbed in. A tree was something that my parents hung a swing in. And I never really just thought about it being a living conscious being. So I want people to understand that we were all things when we were all created was put here on this planet, and we are all one. We are all one, and we are all connected, and we are all here to support each other. That doesn't mean that we're not supposed to eat vegetables or all these things. They are here to share with us and support us. But it does mean that if given the opportunity, that we look at it and appreciate it a little bit differently. And maybe instead of chopping down the whole tree, maybe we just take what we need. Or maybe we figure out other ways to not destroy our environment and our world. And, I think we'll find that when we're good to our planet Earth, she will in return be wonderful and beautiful to us, because we will be our connection will be complete, and our world will be a much better place.
I agree. And like you were saying with the trees, one thing I think that they might do is, because they mark which trees they're going to take and when, is instead of waiting till the tree is gone to plant the new tree, because it's going to take a long time to grow to be the tree that we need it to be. Maybe go, okay, so in a month we're going to take that tree. So plant that tree now.
Yeah.
And then let it establish and then go, okay, we can take these now to use for what we need. And that way there's more of a balance than going, yeah, we have a field of seedlings that we're hoping takes, and if not, the tree's already gone, so we're diminished our oxygen level.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, that's that connection. That connection. Whatever we do affects the whole world, our planet Earth, and it ripples out into the universe because we are all one. We are all one, and we all need each other.
We
and
do.
and we just need to remember our connections. Yeah.
So with that being said, I am going to say good night to Nancy. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you to everyone in the chat room and those that watched. And wherever you are in the world, make it a blessed day, blessed evening, blessed afternoon. Enjoy the day, fill it with love and joy. And like Nancy says, remember, we're connected to everything. So maybe before you react to a situation, think about, I'm connected to this person, so how would I want to be treated in this situation?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that'll help raise our vibration up if we stop to think about how we're connected and we're all one.
Yeah.
So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.